right, so we're going to go ahead and get our conversation started today. So again, thanks guys for coming down from class. I'm sure you're disappointed from having to come out in class and talk here, but hopefully at the end we'll get a chance to hear some of your thoughts as we go through today's conversation. But first, I want to thank our government officials for coming today and being involved in really a great, wonderful opportunity for our school district and our community. And then also for the New York Power Authority to be here to help us understand more about the potential opportunities here, and certainly our staff and our students that are here. Hopefully in the next little bit you'll hear about more details about the possibilities for our school district and our kids. One of the things I just wanted to tie this back to is the idea about our district and our school district vision for education for the kids in Somers. We really identify that vision as having three major folds to it. One of those is the idea about supporting students' 21st century knowledge and skills. The other one is the idea about students' social, emotional, and physical wellness. And the other is the idea about being a global citizen. And so with that, I wanted to just read a short piece from some of the narrative that we've really identified and broke out the global citizenship piece of that I think fits very tightly to today. And it's the idea about having our students using 21st century skills to understand and address global issues, including sustainability and human rights. And so today you're going to hear about how that will directly tie into some of our conversation here. I certainly think this opportunity for us to be a role model for the children in the school district is something we should be doing as a school district, as a community, in a way that allows us to be a part of a larger collective community, Somers, New York, and beyond. I understand the reality that power for us can make a positive difference if we're smart about how we use that power. I had the opportunity a number of years ago to be involved in one of the largest geothermal plants in the United States at that point in time. The major part of that, how did that connect to student learning? How did that impact their thinking as they became and started thinking about becoming engineers in the future and or just consumers of power? And so one of the things firsthand, I have made the choice to drive a hybrid car for the last 10 years or so in my family. And I did some quick calculations coming over. I never even thought about it, but over the last 10 years, just this little car and my little family, we've saved over 7,000 gallons of gasoline just by that one sheer piece. So I can only imagine where we can go when we think about solar in a campus our size and with 1,100, 1,200 students at this school. And if you do come over to my house, I keep the temperature about 57. So I always give you sweaters, and we reduce our reliance there. But the reality is I can see where we could also hopefully work on a project like this where solar arrays on the top of this campus could certainly reduce our reliance on keeping our heating in the building going, things like that, and lights. But perhaps 5 years, 6 years down the road, we could have charging stations, electric charging stations out at the front of our campus to allow some of our students who, as seniors, drive to school to plug in and charge those cars and when they're here at school and head back home and wherever they might be going. So for me, the project has really three clear elements that I'm really excited about. One, potential to save our taxpayers dollars. Two, it can help us lead by example to reduce our carbon footprint here in our community. And really, three, it provides a wonderful opportunity for a learning experience for our kids and for our teachers, and to implement areas into like our science and our technology and our engineering and our mathematics programs. So as we join hands in the Somers community, the New York community, and really community abroad, I think we have an opportunity to be here poised perfectly to go ahead and bring that vision that I talked about before really to life. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Bear to come up. He's going to introduce, just to say thanks to the kids and some of our staff. So Mr. Bear, if you wouldn't mind coming up, just say a few words. Our high school principal, Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Dr. Blanche, and I'd like to thank the members of NYSERDA, New York Power Authority, New York Sun for being here and presenting to us today and letting our students have an opportunity to really learn firsthand about alternative energy sources and particularly solar power. So just to introduce our students and some of the teachers that are here today, we have students represented from some of our technology classes and our Green Power Technology Association, some of our contemporary issues and science classes, our earth science classes, as well as our environmental science classes, as well as our club for environmental science students who meet after school. And to thank our teachers, Mr. Brian Hugic, Ms. Sarah Franchino, Mr. Greg Horace, and Mr. Bill Malia for being here as well. We thank you for this opportunity, and we're interested in hearing all that you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. So from my perspective, I'd like to thank Brian Hunt, who's here at the school as well, too, supporting the kids. We have Robert Click, who is our superintendent of buildings and grounds and helps us make sure we are here, who is key and integral in already helping install a small array here. A number of years ago, and the high school may recall last year, we also did install 2 of our scoreboards that were actually solar powered scoreboards, so he's critical on that. We have Matt Carr here this evening too, as well as an opportunity to help with our community and connections as far as making sure we're on the same page and with those pieces. And Matt's not going to call any snow days, so I know I still got some smiles on folks' faces. And then Ken Crowley, who's here as well too. And when I first landed in the district about 5 years ago, Ken was just kind of moving forward with a last project where we worked with the Power Authority as far as looking at some of the replacements of some very old lighting fixtures and things. And so those dollars were helping to be realized in the savings account. But the last piece I'd like to do is go ahead and introduce the President and CEO of the New York Power Authority here. We have Gail Quinones here to go ahead and help us understand a little bit more about what this means for the community. Gail? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for spending some time with us. I know it's probably lunch break. Are we impinging on your lunch break? No? Okay. Well, it's, with all the clubs and the after-school activities that your teachers and you do in the area of energy and environment, it's very inspiring for somebody like me who runs the New York Power Authority, because then I know that the next generation of leaders are right here, sitting in this room. I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to Dr. Blanche and his staff for hosting today's event. Principal Bayer, the energy and enthusiasm of your student is palpable. Even though you guys are just looking at me, I could sense, especially with all of the activities that you're doing, that you're really, doing something very, very cool here in your high school. I also wish to extend thanks, and he will speak after me, David Sandbeck, Director of New York Sun. This is the program, Governor Cuomo's program for KSolar. We're calling it New York Sun is the umbrella program. KSolar is a program under New York Sun. And thanks to all of you for being here. It's an honor for the New York Power Authority to join a cross-section of innovative thinkers, educators, and public officials who are working together to create a more sustainable New York. A major priority for our governor, Andrew Cuomo, who, by the way, lives not far from here. I actually saw where he lives on our drive up here. As an engineer, I'm an engineer who loves what he does. I am excited that there's a pre-engineering program at Somers. It's a challenging but extremely rewarding profession. I'm particularly excited to hear how many of you who are looking to the energy industry for career opportunities. NYPA is not far from here. NYPA is based in White Plains, and we're right there, right off the Galleria. And I must tell you, we need you. We need your enthusiasm, your creativity, and your dedication. If I can just give you a little bit of a background about NYPA. NYPA generates about 20 to 25% of all electricity in New York State, largely through clean, renewable hydropower from upstate New York. Our Niagara Power Project. We have a St. Lawrence FDR power project in Messina, the northern tip of New York. We have a large pump storage in the Catskills, northern Catskills, called Blenheim Gilboa. So when you hear about NYPA, we generate about, again, 1/4 of all electricity in New York State. We own and operate 1/3 of the large transmission grid in the state. So that's when when people talk about NYPA, that's who we are, and that's where we fit in the energy picture of New York. And you students really inspire me explicitly for making one of the most important promises to our generation, to build a cleaner and greener tomorrow. Somers High School prepares you to be tech-savvy and global citizens, Today we will talk about how to become progressive energy policy ambassadors for you and why it is so important to pursue alternative, innovative solutions to meet the challenges of the 21st century. KSolar is a good example of what I am talking about. You know, KSolar really is a program where we are looking for public schools across the state, all 698 school districts, to sign up, and NYPA with NYSERDA, our partner state entity, will help the school districts and the schools every step of the way to install solar in schools across New York. And the goal is not only to install solar for the sake of installing solar, you know, the cost benefit, environmental benefit, but also to infuse and integrate it to your science and math curriculum. We believe, you know, Governor Cuomo believes that the best way to increase adoption of solar, not only in schools, but in our homes and in our businesses, is to have you, all of you students, be involved in the installation of solar. Because if you actually can touch and feel and see how solar panels work, you will be the leaders in a few years. You will be in my position in across the state in actually making this happen. And it's you who will really usher this new era in terms of clean energy. So I stand here today just really proud to be part of this program. We are going to be working with your district, with your school, installing more solar panel and solar systems. We are going to be working with other school districts across the state, but you know, you can claim it started here, right? You guys are at the front of this journey, and when other school districts that we're working with are asking, "Where can we see an example? Can we see an actual installation done out there?" Well, we have a place to point them to, and maybe all of you can help in explaining to them, you know, students in other school districts or teachers, administrators in other school districts, how you did it here and how it worked here. That's the best sales and marketing, sales and marketing activity that we can do to convince others to do what you've already done and what you're planning to do. So, you know, I wish to come back here. I will come back here. Not I wish. I will come back here after you do your additional installations in this school. As I've mentioned before to your principal and to Dr. Blanche, that I promise that we will help in installing electric charging stations here in your parking space. We can probably, you know, what we'll do is, you know, we'll pick the best spot, you know, the spot that all of you guys fight for. I want to park there every time I go to school, and make those spots, you know, put charging stations in those spots so that there's a little bit of an incentive for you to adopt electric cars or plug-in hybrids going forward. So with that, I just want to introduce my partner from NYSERDA to talk a little bit about the umbrella program, New York Sun, of which KSolar is a sub-program. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for helping to inspire a shared vision, because this is not an easy thing to do. If it's easy, you would have seen all schools and all homes with solar panels, right? But it's not simple. There are things that you need to do an installation in a successful way, but you guys are paving the way. You guys are going to show an example. You guys are going to be the place to go to and to check out for others who are going to be thinking about this. So with that, David, would you come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Gil. My name is David Sandbank. I am the director of New York Sun. New York Sun is Governor Cuomo's solar initiative to build 3 megawatts by 2023. I'd like to first start out saying that Governor Cuomo is not the only person that lives close to here. I am a northern Westchester native, live in North Salem as well. So it's a very nice commute for me today. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here to help introduce KSolar to the Hudson Valley. It is great to join NYPA in this collaborative effort and see firsthand how Somers School District's leadership is investing in solar power. This is a great example of what KSolar can do for school districts around New York, and an example of how we are helping to grow solar power under Governor Cuomo's New York Sun program. Under the vision and leadership of Governor Cuomo, New York is undertaking a substantial restructuring of our energy, regulatory environment, and clean energy programs through a comprehensive strategy reforming the energy vision, better known as REV. The ultimate goal driving our efforts in New York is to create an energy grid that is clean, reliable, and affordable, and one that could lead us to a path of reducing greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. REV is designed to enable a self-sustaining clean energy markets that will support the state's energy infrastructure. REV will work to take pressure off the grid by promoting the generation of more power generation at customer locations like this one in Somers, thereby offsetting part of the continued need for large energy infrastructure investments. One element of REV is New York Sun. Under the $1 billion initiative, the state has been supporting the installation of solar power since 2012 and helping to move the state closer to having a sustainable, self-sufficient solar industry. KSolar is part of our Community Solar New York program, which makes implementing solar easier and more affordable. Through this program, communities join locally organized outreach efforts aimed at getting a critical mass of area homes and businesses to install solar and obtain competitive pricing. Historically, solarized campaigns lower the cost of solar for homeowners by about 10 or 20%. These successes are on top of tremendous solar gains we've already seen in New York State. In 2010, there were about 53 megawatts of solar power installed in New York. Today, through New York Sun, the state now has more than 365 megawatts of solar power. That's enough to power over 73,000 average-size homes, so we're making a lot of really good progress. And with projects like this one, we're working towards our goal of bringing 3,000 megawatts of renewable solar energy to New York by 2023. It's a great story for New York State as we move to a cleaner and more efficient energy delivery system. Somers High School shows the benefits of solar power for school districts under KSolar, reducing their energy use, investing in clean power, and perhaps more importantly, teaching a valuable lesson to students about the benefits of renewable energy. I would also like to pick up on what Gil has mentioned earlier about Somers being at the forefront and being a guide for other participating school districts in the future. Solar starts here, right? But we all envision a day when another school district's going to put a rather large solar system on the roof, and there won't be an event like this. It'll be mainstream. Because with projects like this, it not only brings an awareness to the local school district and in municipalities, but you students as well understand that solar now is more of a mainstream form of electrical production, and you tell your parents about it, and maybe your home gets it. Maybe your neighbor learns about it through you that learned about it through the school district. So again, this is all, as Gil said, a start for everybody. And I'm really happy to be here and celebrate that with you today. Thank you for your time and commitment to a clean energy future.
So I think the last part, probably what we're hoping for the kids, is just some general questions, just what popped in your mind and maybe some experiences you've had already and things. And I think we have a wireless mic we're going to go ahead and use. And so again, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hands, and we're going to ask the kids to grab the mic just so everybody can hear in the room. We'll pass it around. So teachers too, if you want anything coming from there, we'll go ahead and start. So thanks, Gil.
Do you have any questions about solar? Come on, don't be shy. Yes.
I was wondering, like, how much storage, like, does it have where it could, like, store energy from the day?
Okay, so the solar panel that you see actually does not store the energy. So while you produce the electricity from the solar panel, you use it in the school. Now, storage is becoming the next equipment that is starting to be developed. So if you heard, you might have heard, the Tesla car? Right. So the person who started Tesla, his relatives, I think is a cousin or started a company called Solar City. And so Solar City, Tesla of course has a battery in it, right? So Solar City is now developing batteries, and other companies do, but Solar City is one of the bigger ones, that will be paired with solar panels so that during the day, you not only generate electricity that's being used directly here, but any excess electricity being generated by the solar panel can be stored, and then you use it later when you need it. So that's starting to happen. Again, it's interesting, the battery technology, the innovation is really, first it's happening through our cell phones, right? Smart devices. As you know, you guys have cell phones and it's getting better, batteries are getting better. That technology then gets transferred to cars, and then cars to being used either for utility, like electric utility purposes. So it's good to watch the development of batteries on your smart devices, because eventually it goes through cars and it goes through, tagged into solar. It's not unheard of that at some point you have a box in your garage or somewhere in the backyard, and it's probably a battery. That will be a future that probably you will be in, right smack in the middle of it. Any more questions? Yes?
So what is the number of batteries on the facility that?
No, I don't think there's a limit. There are practical limits because of cost, right? It's not cheap yet, so the cost has to come down. And think of a future where not only will you store battery for your own use, you may want to store the power in the battery, so that you and your neighbors can use, right? Think of Uber, right? Uber in New York, I live in New York City. In the past, I just used cabs, right? Yellow cabs. And now there's about 14,000, 15,000 yellow cabs in New York, and you have to have a franchise to own yellow cabs in New York. You have to buy this franchise, you have to pay to be able to own. Now, with Uber, they're projecting there's probably, 44,000 cars next year with Uber. And it's a shared resource. And so I think solar, can be shared by neighborhoods, by communities. Batteries can be shared by neighborhood and communities. But, that's going to evolve over time. So it'll be an exciting time because technology is going to improve, costs are going to go down for batteries, and the electric grid is going to be more multi-flow. The way the grid was built, Thomas Edison built the first power plant in Lower Manhattan, right, in your science class, and the first long distance of electricity happened from Niagara Falls to Buffalo. So New York, we're the place where all of these things, where the grid was and power production was developed. But when they designed the grid, Edison, Tesla, Westinghouse, it's one-way flow from power plants to transmission lines to the distribution grids and homes and businesses. It's one-way flow. In the future, electricity will flow multi-way, kind of like the internet. And technologies are being developed now. Solar that you can put on your roof, batteries, you mentioned cars with batteries. You know, imagine there's a storm, Hurricane Sandy, you don't have power. You may be able to plug your car into your home, and at least you have light from your car battery. So that is kind of the future that is being developed as we speak. And it's very, very exciting for all of you. Yes?
How much would it cost to like power the school? Like how much would it cost to install solar panels and then that power the school?
Well, ideally, what we're in under KSolar, the way we want to do things is to standardize how schools will install and procure solar. So instead of actually buying the solar panels, what we would like to do is for the solar provider, for the schools to buy or to sign a contract for 20 years to buy the electricity coming off of the solar panels. So if I'm a developer installer of solar, I'm going to put it on your roof here, but really what you're buying is a 20-year contract for electricity, and what we hope is the cost of that electricity is equal or less than what you're paying today. Yes? Well, you want to put solar. So part of the work that NYPA, the New York Power Authority, will do with each school is to determine the suitability of solar panels. Obviously, we would say don't put it under a shade or under a tree, right? Put it where you have full exposure and the sun rays can hit right on it. So we will try and avoid those issues right from the get-go so that we don't have to cut trees and damage the environment. Yes? Oh, maybe over there. Yeah. Ladies first.
How long do they tend to last for?
How long they last? I think they are, and let me ask my engineers, about 20 years or more. Yeah, so 20 years or more, and they degrade a little bit, you know, the efficiency of it, but not really. Now technology is getting better and better in converting light to electricity. So even with that degradation, so I would say 20 plus years, you're good for it. It can even go, now it even go to 40 years. So let me give you an example. In Germany, right? Not really a sunny country, to be honest, but it's working. In Germany, they have installed about 30 gigawatts of solar panel and another 30 wind. So the total demand in Germany is about 80 gigawatts. So 60 gigawatts of that total demand is now renewable. In California, it's increasing in a big way. Hawaii and Arizona, those states, and now New York, as David said, we are catching up in a big way because the cost and the efficiency of the solar panels are getting better and better, and therefore they are more feasible to be installed. Yes?
You can like sell like leftover energy, right?
Well, right now, yes. It's called net metering in New York. So if I have a solar panel in my home and I'm producing more than what I need, I can sell it back to the utility and they pay me for that electricity that I sell back to the utility.
So how come like the companies like you guys who have like solar panels, how come you don't just make like a bunch of like fields with them and then just sell that energy instead of like going around installing them to all different houses?
Rather than us installing them directly?
Yeah, like how come you don't just sell the energy that you make like from your own?
Well,
fields and stuff?
that's actually the model that we are trying to do. if additional solar panels are going to be installed in schools, what we would like, the arrangement we would like to set up is that schools are actually not buying the solar panel, but they're buying the electricity coming out of the solar panel. So it's exactly the way you're describing it. So you got that right, and the knuckle was very appropriate there between the two of you guys. There you go.
How many other schools in this area are also applying solar panels?
I don't know the answer to that, but what I can tell you, in our state, there are about 698 school districts, and about between 250 and 300 have signed up, meaning they're interested to explore and install solar. I think that's about 950 schools across the state, and about that's basically it. I would think about 62. Is it counties or? Yeah, so almost all. So, but we still have a lot, right? 698, only 250 have signed up. So we want to sign up the balance. And again, it's not. That's why what you're doing here is extremely important, because we can tell those others, if you want to do it, check Somers. Yes.
What happens in an area like ours where winter days are shorter, or it's a cloudy day or clear cloudy day, and you're not producing the same amount?
I think you have to look at it year-round, and I think year-round in New York, even in a place like this, can make a lot of sense to do solar. And it's interesting that sometimes even if the sun is not fully kind of, really shooting its rays down, the panel is still generating some power, right, David? I mean, it's not.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would follow up with that by saying the interesting thing about solar energy is it's very predictable. Not on a day-to-day basis, but on an annual basis. And we could say, okay, in this area, in this latitude, we have 100 years of historical weather data saying we have 4.25 hours of sunlight a day. Now, that doesn't mean today we're going to have 4.25 hours of sunlight, but it's amazing how predictable solar can be on an annual basis. And some winters will be worse than other winters. Obviously, when the snow is on the panels, it doesn't produce electricity. So a lot of factors go into that. If you had a ground mount system that had a greater tilt and the snow slid off more, you'd have a little bit greater predictability on it. But it's always a misnomer. People always think, well, it's dark at night or it's cloudy and we're not producing energy. But the bottom line is, with solar, we have a very easy way to predict about how much energy that this solar system at Somers is going to produce on an annual basis.
Yes.
With this, would the power from the solar just go directly into the school, or would you have battery banks that would also?
The way you have it now is it just, my understanding is it goes directly to the school. And even most of the installations, probably, the battery technology is relatively new. And I think the cost will have to go down to a certain point before it makes economic sense to just kind of plug and play. But like everything else, solar panels used to be very expensive, and now they're a lot cheaper relatively from before. So, again, thank you again. I know you got some class. We don't want you to miss any class.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Gil, and the rest of the group for coming today. And I had a question that I didn't get a chance to ask. Just how many of you have ever had a chance to drive an electric car, in a car, or even a plug-in car? Has anybody had a chance to do that? So a few hands go. Yeah, a few hands going up. Great. My question also, too, is if you had a chance as seniors to drive your car to school and it was a plug-in, you think you'd be interested in driving electric plug-in? You just plug it in and really not paying for gas kind of thing? A lot of positive heads on that one? Yeah, very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for the New York Power Authority for coming today. Just before you guys go, I know the bell may ring in a couple minutes. We just want to get the opportunity to say thank you to Gil and maybe take a picture of the kids' stuff. And